alcohols. Before the reactions of alcohols, we have to know how do we prepare alcohol. How do we prepare alcohol? طبعا to prepare alcohol, we need we have two different ways. The first way we already explained it now, which is the reaction of alkene plus steam in the presence of 300 degrees Celsius, 60 atm, or 6,000 kPa, and acid catalyst, acid as catalyst. The product will be alcohol. The product will be alcohol. يعني example, if we have ethene plus steam and water gives ethanol. Okay, this method has advantage. This method has advantage and disadvantage. So what is the advantage and disadvantage of this? The advantage of this one is it produces pure alcohol, because everything here is alcohol. Yani the product is only alcohol, nothing else. And one of the advantage that the reaction is very fast, because you do the reaction under high pressure or high temperature, so the reaction is fast. Okay, these are the advantages of this reaction. The disadvantage of this reaction that it uses non-renewable source of energy, non-renewable source of energy, because alkenes, we get them from cracking of alkenes which exist in the crude oil, and the crude oil is non-renewable source of energy. And the second problem that it costs, yani the cost of this process is higher than the other process, because we need very high temperature, very high pressure, and we need that. So it has, yani I cannot do it at home, for example. ماشي? So this is the first way of preparing alcohol. We call it catalytic addition of steam to alkene, or hydration of alkene. Catalytic addition, it means addition in the presence of catalyst, which is acid catalyst. Right. The second way of preparing alcohol, which is very important also, is fermentation. And fermentation means if we have sugar solution or aqueous sugar solution.
It is renewable.
Yes. In the presence of yeast, the sugar changes into ethanol plus carbon dioxide. If we want to write the equation, so C6H12O6, which is glucose aqueous, in the presence of yeast, it gives 2C2H5OH, which is ethanol plus carbon dioxide plus 2CO2. طيب, طبعا the equation is very important because also it comes in the exam. Okay. طيب, in this reaction, how it happens? It happens if you have container. And this container, you just put sugar in this container, and we just do something كده called, or we put something called كده thistle funnel. Thistle funnel ده, here we put the sugar solution اهو, sugar solution. خلاص. Okay. And thistle funnel This cystal funnel, it will allow carbon dioxide to come out, and it doesn't allow oxygen to get in. Why we don't allow oxygen to get in? Because this is a kind of respiration, and we need this respiration to happen in the absence of oxygen. And any process that happen in the absence of oxygen, we call it anaerobic. Anaerobic respiration. This will be the conditions for this reaction to happen. يبقى number one, this reaction should happen in the absence of oxygen, or it should be anaerobic respiration. Number two, this reaction to happen, sugar should be aqueous. This reaction to happen, sugar should be aqueous. This reaction to happen, we have to use yeast as a catalyst. This reaction to happen, the temperature of the reaction, the temperature should be from 25 to 35 degrees Celsius. اللي هي almost close to the room temperature. Almost close to the room temperature. So here we have 4 conditions for this reaction to happen. This reaction should happen in the absence of oxygen or anaerobic respiration. This reaction, the sugar, it cannot be solid sugar, it should be aqueous sugar. We have to use yeast, and the temperature should be from 25 to 35 for this reaction to happen. After, as we put these conditions, we leave this container for weeks. We leave it for several weeks. Once you leave it for several weeks, the sugar inside will change into alcohol. Instead of sugar, it becomes alcohol. But the percentage of alcohol formed in this case is only 15%. If you have if you put at the beginning 100 centimeter cube of sugar, only 15% of them will be alcohol, and the rest will stay sugar. Why? Because the alcohol produced will kill the rest of yeast, because alcohol is lethal, it's sanitizer. We use it to kill fungi and bacteria. So the 15% of alcohol formed will kill the rest of bacteria. Okay, so only 15% are alcohol that are prepared in this way. But this means that this method also has advantage and it has disadvantage. Right. One of the disadvantage that the alcohol produced is not pure alcohol. Why? Because only 15% alcohol and the rest stay sugar, and we have killed yeast, so we have a lot of impurities with alcohol. To prepare pure alcohol, number one, I have to make filtration to remove yeast. I have yeast killed in the container, so I have to make filtration to kill yeast. Number two, I have to make fractional distillation to separate alcohol from the rest of sugar. يبقى number one, the alcohol produced in this way not pure. Number two, this is a slow way of preparing alcohol, because I said here you will leave it for several weeks, but the first one immediately, once you add steam to alkene, immediately it becomes an alcohol. Okay. So these are the two main disadvantages of using this method. The advantage of using this method, number one, they are opposite to the disadvantage of the other method. It has low cost, because you can get this container, you can get sugar, you can get yeast. Often you can do it at home. It doesn't cost many times a lot of money. ماشي. Number two, it uses a renewable source of energy. A renewable source, because sugar comes from the plant, and the plant is a renewable source of energy. So in this case, or this method, it has two advantage and two disadvantage. The advantage that it has low cost and it uses renewable source of energy, and the disadvantage that the alcohol produced in this way is not pure. The disadvantage that this process is slow. The conditions of this process is it should happen in the absence of oxygen. The sugar used should be aqueous. We should use yeast as a catalyst, and the temperature should be from, طبعا don't write in the exam from 25 to 35. Choose one temperature and write it. Write 30, for example. Okay? But these are the two ways by which we can prepare alcohol. These are the two ways by which we can prepare alcohol. Okay? طيب. For the reactions of alcohol. The reaction of alcohol, number one, of the reaction of alcohol, that if we have alcohol like this, this alcohol is called ethanol. This alcohol, if you add concentrated sulfuric acid, we can remove water from alcohol and we can return it back to alkene. And this is opposite to what we did just right now. يعني since 5 minutes, we just add water to alcohol to make alkene in the presence of high temperature, pressure, and so on. In the same way, I can add concentrated sulfuric acid to alcohol to remove water, and it produces alkene. يعني it returns the double bond again. تمام? Right. These are the most famous things in alcohol. خلاص. There is another reaction for alcohol, but it's common with carboxylic acid. There is another famous reaction of alcohol, but it's common with carboxylic acid. طيب.